What if one simple snack you eat every single day could actually shape how your brain works, or do almost nothing at all? Think about your daily routine. Maybe you keep a bag of almonds at your desk, reaching for a handful between meetings when your energy starts to drop. Or maybe you add walnuts to your oatmeal in the morning, thinking you're doing something good for your body. It feels like a smart choice. Clean, simple, healthy. And in a general sense, it is. But here's the question most people never stop to ask. Are all nuts equally good for your brain? Because when it comes to brain health, your memory, your focus, even how your brain ages over time, not all foods work the same way. And surprisingly, even foods that look similar on the surface can have very different effects inside your body. Walnuts and almonds are both labeled as superfoods. They're both packed with nutrients, healthy fats, and widely recommended in healthy diets. So it's easy to assume they're interchangeable. But they're not. In fact, when you look at the science behind how these two nuts interact with your brain, something interesting starts to appear. One may support memory and learning more directly, while the other may play a stronger role in protecting your brain over time. And the difference comes down to something most people overlook: the type of fats, antioxidants, and compounds inside each nut. So in this video, we're going to break it down in a simple, clear way, so you can finally understand which one is actually better for your brain, and how to use them in a smarter way. Because once you understand this, your daily snack might become one of the most powerful tools for your long-term brain health. The real problem isn't that walnuts or almonds are unhealthy. In fact, both are excellent foods. The problem is much more subtle, and that's exactly why most people never notice it. Most people assume that all nuts are basically the same. You hear general advice like, eat more nuts, and you follow it. You pick the ones you like, the ones that are convenient, the ones that taste good. Maybe you choose almonds because they're high in protein. Maybe you choose walnuts because you've heard they're good for the brain. But rarely do people stop and ask what those differences actually mean. And that's where the confusion begins. Because while walnuts and almonds are both healthy, they have very different nutritional profiles. And when it comes to brain health, those differences matter more than most people realize. Let's look at how people usually make their choices. Some focus on calories. Others look at protein content. Almonds often win here. They're known as a high-protein snack, popular in fitness and weight loss diets. So people assume that more protein automatically means better overall health, including brain health. But your brain doesn't run on protein. It runs on very specific nutrients. Certain types of fats, antioxidants, and vitamins that support brain cells, protect against damage, and influence how your brain functions over time. And this is where many people unknowingly make a mistake. They choose based on what sounds healthy, not on what their brain actually needs. There's also the issue of how nuts are consumed. Many people eat roasted, salted, or even flavored nuts without thinking about how that affects their health. Added salt, oils, and processing can change the nutritional quality. And portion size is another overlooked factor. It's easy to overeat almonds, especially because they're small, convenient, and marketed as a healthy snack. But more isn't always better. Eating large amounts of one type of nut doesn't necessarily give you better results. In fact, it can limit the variety of nutrients your body and your brain receives. And over time, this creates a gap. You're eating something healthy. You're making better choices than before. But you're not optimizing those choices for your brain. You're missing out on key nutrients that could support memory, focus, and long-term cognitive function. So before you decide which nut is better, you need to understand what your brain actually needs and how walnuts and almonds fit into that picture. Now let's slow everything down and really understand what your brain actually needs and how walnuts and almonds fit into that picture. Because this is where the difference becomes clear. Your brain is one of the most energy-demanding organs in your body. Even though it only makes up a small percentage of your body weight, it uses a large portion of your daily energy. And to function properly, it relies on very specific nutrients, not just calories, not just protein, but things like omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, vitamin E, and plant compounds known as polyphenols. These are the nutrients that support memory, protect brain cells, and help reduce inflammation over time. So let's start with walnuts. Walnuts are unique among nuts because they are one of the few plant foods rich in ALA, a type of omega-3 fatty acid. Now, omega-3s are incredibly important for brain health. They help build and maintain the structure of brain cells and support communication between neurons. While ALA from walnuts isn't as strong as the omega-3s found in fish, it still plays a meaningful role, especially for people who don't consume fish regularly. But that's not all. Walnuts also contain polyphenols, which are plant compounds with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. These compounds help protect brain cells from oxidative stress, which is one of the key factors involved in aging and cognitive decline. So when you eat walnuts regularly, you're not just feeding your body. You're supporting processes that are directly connected to memory, learning, and overall brain function. Now let's shift to almonds. Almonds tell a different story. Instead of omega-3s, almonds are rich in vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that plays a crucial role in protecting brain cells over time. Vitamin E helps reduce oxidative damage, which can accumulate as you age and affect cognitive function. This is why almonds are often associated with long-term brain protection rather than immediate cognitive performance. In other words, if walnuts are more about supporting how your brain functions right now, almonds are more about protecting how your brain functions in the future. Now let's talk about fat profiles, because this is where the difference becomes even more important. Walnuts are high in polyunsaturated fats, including omega-3s. These fats are essential for brain structure and function, but they are also more delicate and need to be handled properly. Almonds, on the other hand, are rich in monounsaturated fats. These fats are more stable and are known for supporting heart health, which indirectly benefits the brain as well. A healthy heart supports healthy blood flow, and healthy blood flow supports brain function. So even though both contain healthy fats, they serve different roles. Walnuts provide more direct support for brain structure and signaling. Almonds provide stability and long-term protection. Now let's look at cognitive effects more directly. Research suggests that walnuts may have a stronger impact on memory and learning, likely due to their omega-3 content and polyphenols. These compounds support communication between brain cells and may enhance certain aspects of cognitive performance. Almonds, on the other hand, may not have the same immediate effect on memory, but their high vitamin E content has been linked to a reduced risk of cognitive decline over time. So again, we see a pattern. Walnuts are more active in supporting brain function. Almonds are more protective in supporting brain longevity. And then there are antioxidants. Both walnuts and almonds contain antioxidants, but they differ in type and function. Walnuts contain more polyphenols, which have strong anti-inflammatory effects. Almonds are richer in vitamin E, which protects cell membranes from damage. So when you compare them side by side, it's not a question of which one is better overall. It's a question of what role each one plays. And this leads to the most important insight of all. These two nuts are not competing with each other. They complement each other. They support your brain in different ways, at different levels, and over different time frames. Once you understand that, the question changes. You're no longer asking, which one should I choose? You're asking, how can I use both in a way that supports my brain as effectively as possible? So now that you understand how walnuts and almonds support your brain in different ways, the next step becomes much more practical. What should you actually do in your daily life? Because this is where most people overcomplicate things. They try to find one best food, one perfect choice, and stick to it. But when it comes to something as complex as brain health, that approach doesn't work very well. The smarter approach is much simpler. You use both, strategically. Let's start by looking at your goals. If your focus is improving memory, concentration, or overall brain function in the short term, especially during busy workdays or periods of high mental demand, walnuts can play a more direct role. Their omega-3 content and polyphenols support communication between brain cells and may help your brain perform more efficiently. So adding walnuts to your breakfast, like oatmeal or yogurt, can be a simple way to support your brain early in the day. Now let's look at almonds. If your goal is long-term brain protection, thinking about how your brain will function years from now, almonds become just as important. Their high vitamin E content helps protect brain cells from oxidative stress, which builds up over time and contributes to cognitive decline. So having a small portion of almonds as a snack during the day can support that long-term protection without much effort. And this is where the real strategy comes in. You don't need to choose one over the other. You can combine them. For example, you might start your day with walnuts in your breakfast, giving your brain the nutrients it needs to function well. Then later in the day, you might snack on almonds, supporting long-term protection. It's simple, flexible, and effective. But just as important as what you include is what you avoid. Try to choose raw or lightly roasted nuts rather than heavily processed ones. Nuts that are covered in sugar, excessive salt, or low-quality oils can reduce the benefits and add unnecessary stress to your body. Portion size also matters. Even though nuts are healthy, they are calorie-dense. A small handful is enough to get the benefits without overdoing it. Eating large amounts doesn't necessarily improve results. It just adds extra calories. And finally, keep it consistent. You don't need a complicated plan. You don't need to measure everything perfectly. Just make these small choices part of your daily routine. Because in the end, brain health isn't built from one big decision. It's built from small, consistent habits over time. And once you start using foods like walnuts and almonds in a more intentional way, you're not just eating healthier. You're supporting your brain in a way that actually makes a difference. So when you step back and look at everything we've just covered, the answer becomes much clearer, but also a lot more interesting than most people expect. Walnuts support your brain more directly. They provide omega-3 fatty acids and polyphenols that help with memory, learning, and how your brain functions on a daily basis. Almonds, on the other hand, work more quietly in the background. Their vitamin E helps protect your brain over time, reducing the damage that builds up as you age. But the real insight is this. It's not about choosing one over the other. It's about understanding how to use both in a smarter, more intentional way. Because once you start thinking like that, everything changes. You stop following general advice like, eat more nuts, and you start making decisions that actually match what your body and your brain needs. So now I want to hear from you. Which do you eat more often? Walnuts or almonds? Or after watching this, are you thinking about combining both in your daily routine? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video helped you understand something in a clearer way, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because we break down nutrition in a way that actually makes sense. And in the next video, we're comparing cashews versus peanuts, Another choice that might surprise you,